When most people hear literature, they think of novels, poems, or maybe something they had to analyze in school. But in the arts and humanities, literature does much more than tell stories. It helps us understand language, power, identity, memory, and even the way societies imagine themselves. So here are 5 surprising ways to think about literature that can actually change how you read, write, and understand the world. First, literature as a machine for empathy. When you read a novel or a play, you are not just observing a character from the outside. You are often forced to inhabit their perspective. That matters because literature gives you access to experiences you may never live yourself. The mechanism behind this is perspective taking. Good literature slows you down and makes you spend time inside someone else's fears, hopes, contradictions, and choices. That can make abstract issues like migration, poverty, race, war, or loneliness feel human and immediate. A useful example: if you are studying history, reading a novel from the same period can help you understand how people felt the era, not just what happened in it. Second, literature as a record of hidden culture. Textbooks often give you the official version of events. Literature gives you the atmosphere around them. It reveals slang, social norms, unspoken rules, values, and anxieties. That is useful because culture is not only what a society says about itself. It is also what it accidentally reveals in stories, dialogue, humor, and silence. For example, a Victorian novel can tell you a lot about class, gender expectations, and etiquette, sometimes more vividly than a history textbook. If you are analyzing a culture, literature can act like a social snapshot. Third, literature as a test lab for ideas. Writers often explore questions before society has clear answers. What makes a person responsible for their actions? Can technology improve humanity or distort it? What happens when identity becomes unstable? This is why literature is so powerful in the humanities. It does not just present arguments, it stages experiments. Mechanically, fiction creates a safe space to explore consequences. It lets authors build scenarios, push them to extremes, and show what breaks. A concrete example: dystopian novels are useful not because they predict the future exactly, but because they help us test the logic of present-day systems such as surveillance, consumerism, and propaganda, before those systems become normal. Fourth, literature is a study of language itself. One of the most interesting things about literature is that it does not just use language, it makes you notice language. Poetry, for example, compresses meaning. A single image, rhythm, or repeated sound can carry layers of feeling. Even prose can do this through metaphor, structure, and tone. Why is that useful? Because language shapes thought. The words we use affect how we categorize experience. Literature trains you to notice ambiguity, implication, and subtext. That is valuable in real life too. In essays, presentations, media analysis, and even everyday conversations, you become better at seeing when language is persuasive, misleading, or carefully chosen. Fifth, literature as a memory device. Some ideas are easy to forget when they are written as facts, but when they are embedded in a story, they stick. That is because narrative gives information a structure: beginning, conflict, consequence. The human brain is wired to remember patterns and stories more easily than isolated data. This makes literature useful far beyond English class. If you are studying philosophy, politics, ethics, or cultural studies, literature can make concepts memorable and emotionally resonant. For instance, instead of only memorizing what alienation means, you can read a text that makes you feel it. That experience often makes the concept easier to understand and recall later. So literature in the arts and humanities is not just about what happened in the story. It is about what stories do. They build empathy, they preserve culture, they test ideas, they sharpen our relationship with language, and they help memory stick. If you want to study literature more effectively, try asking 3 questions each time you read. What does this text reveal about people? What does it reveal about society? And what can it make me notice about language or ideas that I might otherwise miss? That is when literature stops being just reading and becomes a way of thinking. 5 surprising ways to think about literature in arts and humanities is just one small part of literature. If you are interested, our full free literature course is linked in the description.